here. Started 2 hours, 2+ hours. They probably go a little bit longer depending on nonstop NBA DFS conversation. The NBA gods kind of hooked it up with a pretty good schedule for the entire week. I know it's daily fantasy sports. We all care about today and today only, but just kind of taking a peek at the entire week. 6 games today. That's a lovely number. 7 Tuesday, 8 on Wednesday, 9 Thursday, 9 Friday, 6 on Thursday. I lied. No double digits the entire week, which is something that's I'm thankful for. What is that noise? What is that?
I was wondering the same thing.
What God's name is going on?
What are you guys doing? What is happening here?
Are you screwing with me?
No, I'm not doing that.
It's producer Rob. What just? Oh my God!
Mute yourself real quick, Dean.
That was a okay. Did you mute me or no?
No,
I'm not really sure what's going on.
It's all done. Everybody just relax. We're all trying to find out the guy who did this.
It's the guy that's dressed like the hot dog salesman. I love that bit. I closed my Discord, and I don't know if that's what it was, because that's when it stopped, or maybe
it sounded like almost old messages like coming through. It was just like pinging after pinging. It was wild. I was like, "What is that noise?"
I have no idea. I've never heard that before. I felt like I was playing like Galaga from like 1987.
Yes.
You're an old school Atari guy. You might know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Mr. Gerg says somebody said to shut off the Atari. That's where I got flashbacks to. What's up, chat? Kindly hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Where else can you get content like this where we're just freaking out? I wasn't sure if that was just me. And I'm like, am I just going to power through? Is that going to go away? And I guess it went away. All right. There we go. The noises got angry when they heard me talking about tomorrow. Who cares about tomorrow, Keith? It's tonight. That's what we care about. Daily Fantasy Sports, 6 Gamer. How are things in your world, Keith? Keith Eister, Eyes. How's a slate looking for you?
Yeah, I think it's a great week here, as you kind of laid out there. 6 games, a little lighter than we're used to on a Monday, but that means we don't have to deal with the 2 and 3 gamers on like Tuesday and Thursday. So great little setup here. 6 games, still enough to where we have to make some decisions. We thought it was going to be a pretty quiet 6-game slate when we opened up the injury report this morning, but things have kind of changed. We've got LeBron out now, Keldon Johnson out. He was the kind of the one we were waiting on, and still a couple of Q tags down the road as well. John Morant being the biggest, of course. But yeah, fun little slate. I think there's plenty of value here. There's some studs to pay up for, so a little bit of everything despite only 6 games.
Yeah, the Ja one's tricky because it's the back half of a back-to-back. Of course, he didn't play yesterday. Adams didn't play yesterday. Adams, they're saying he's ill. Ja, they gave him a thigh, and they're playing against the Spurs, a team without the big body of Keldon Johnson. And it's like, do they even need these dudes? Maybe if they're actually like dinged, give them an extra day, I don't know if that would affect. Also, Josh Richardson on the other side, I'm not sure if you mentioned that, also questionable. Midday downgrade for San Antonio. It just feels like a scheduled blowout.
The one that surprised me the most is Desmond Bane was not on the injury report.
Yes.
He's just coming back from a month-long absence and missed the last 2 back-to-backs. So Desmond Bane not on the injury report. That was surprising to me, but maybe that's more indicative that Ja is going to sit this one out.
So I wasn't fully locked in yesterday in basketball. I took the day off as far as basketball, but my thought was, and it made sense to me, again, maybe I don't know if you were in on basketball yesterday or not. I thought, well, they're going to rest Ja yesterday, and they're going to let him go today against San Antonio, and because they're planning ahead, they know they're playing the Spurs, and with or without Johnson or Richardson, they're going to be terrible, right? So maybe they haven't played Bane in a back-to-back since coming back, like you said, but I don't know. That's maybe I was wrong in making those assumptions. And Adams is ill, so there's really no what can we do with that. But that guy generally he plays through everything. But again, if he's not feeling great, do they need Steven Adams to beat San Antonio? Probably not.
And he did sit yesterday as well, I believe.
Yeah, and that was an illness yesterday too?
Yep.
Okay. So it wasn't like a body part, now he's just ill. Okay. Yeah, all right. And the Lakers, if you run some optimal stuff now, it's pretty dicey because, LeBron being out, tons of usage going around, but one of the worst places to play, toughest places to play there, the altitude in Denver. I know Lakers have been playing better of late, but that's because LeBron is just defying all reason and logic. 38 years old, just still smashing the world. He's not playing tonight. Just feels like a blowout. Again, you can't really assume these things. You can make your lineups based upon, and you kind of figure that out as far as your scripts. But you're going to see Russ looks like a good play. Schroeder looks like a good play. Wenyen Gabriel might be one of those rare players. I always like when we get this situation. Somebody that starts, but also would mop up if things get ugly. Does he have that kind of security? Is that an interesting assumption, or am I making a leap? I feel like he's one of those potential starters / will also mop up if things get brutal.
Yeah, I think you could definitely put him in that category. Obviously, they're going to pull off guys like Russ, Patrick Beverly, probably even Schroeder. But yeah, I think Gabriel is in that. Do they only have 9 bodies today? By my count, I think that's correct. So there should have to be one guy that carries over to the mop-up duty, and I like Gabriel to be that guy.
I'm seeing 11 officially, according to our lineups page. Yeah, so
we just had 9 projected. I didn't have the lineups page up.
Yeah, you're. How could you forget Cole Swider and Scottie Pippen? I'm guessing those two are not projected to get any minutes. I don't know if those the two that are not in the list.
That's
Cole
correct.
Swider
Yes.
and Scottie Pippen. Yeah, you got to see what you have in Cole Swider and Scottie Pippen. Scottie with a Y, by the way. I don't know if that changes things or not for you as far as projections. Either way, he's projected for 0 minutes. If he plays, it means something probably went horribly wrong. Or horribly fantastic. Somehow the Lakers are winning by 30. I guess that's possible too. Yeah, and we're going to go break it down, of course, game by game. We hand it off to the Crunch Time crew in about an hour and 10 minutes, so plenty of time to dig into it. We got Roth, of course, hosting Crunch Time. You get Keith and Tim, Tasteful Tides. Chat.
No, Keith is on GrindersLive with you.
Oh, is that what I said? Are you not pulling double duty? Are you not going to stick around the entire 2 hours?
I mean, I suppose I could, but I would prefer not to.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, I am talking to Keith, aka Ice or Eyes, and then Tim, Tasteful Tides, will be on later on. Chat, let us know what's on your mind. Feel free to join the conversation. It makes for a more fun show. I see producer Rob, producer Devin, both lurking in chat as well.
I'm lurking in the show right now. How do you like that?
Dean is never watching his video.
Never watching the video.
What was going on in the video? What did I miss?
I was just here, ready to interject and ask if you were ready for today's game that we play throughout the show.
Oh, yeah. Is it going to be based upon our pre-show conversation in any way?
Nope. I'm going to keep it sports related tonight. And I am randomly going to throw a jersey number at you.
Ooh.
And you guys have to tell me who is considered the most famous, according to Bleacher Report, the most famous person in sports, all of sports.
What a great game.
To wear that number. So we will start. Number 12 is too easy. But we will start with number 11. Who is the most famous number 11 in sports?
Ooh, most famous number 11. Oh man, I'm not Googling.
Or the best. I guess the best is like what they go off of. Who is the best to wear number 11 in all of sports?
There's got to be a quarterback number 11.
That's
right?
what I was thinking too. That's
11 feels like a quarterback number. Although now with the NFL these days, who knows what number anybody is? Gerald Everett, number 5, rocking tight end.
Yeah.
Who is the best number 11?
And chat, feel free to jump in.
I don't even have like this is like if I have a hole in my game of like a sports knowledge, I'm not great at this. I feel like I should be better at it.
Keith, do you have any guesses?
Nothing is immediately coming to mind. I went straight to quarterback as well, just because it seems like a common number for a quarterback, but I can't even think of one right now off the top of my head.
Might be a mistake to go to NFL on this one.
Okay.
Baseball, basketball, hockey.
Hockey.
I'll give you some
I don't know
10.
hockey numbers at all. Yeah.
I don't either. I'm flopping all over the place.
Number 11, the best player to wear number 11. I don't see it in the chat. Oh, there it is, Mr. Gerg. Mr. Gerg has it.
Mark Messier.
Mark Messier is the best player to wear number 11 in sports history.
Isaiah Thomas wore 11 for Detroit. Yeah,
that was the notable one that they had after that. But it
Dante Culpepper is a name I could not get out of my head.
Oh my god!
Reason.
Yeah,
I'm rocking the USF helmet right over here. So I went to a game when I was a student. UCF played Auburn. We went to Auburn and I took a road trip with a bunch of friends. It was a good time. I had a blast hanging out in Auburn, and UCF gave them a game. Like we were we were battling with them. Dante turned the ball over not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times inside Auburn's 20. And still, UCF was only down by, or either, I think they were winning in the fourth quarter. And then losing like 10-6. Or like, it was a really, really low scoring game. It was like 13-3, whatever it was. We were thirsty. But I saw Dante on campus the next day, like or maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it was, right after that game happened. And I happened to have my ticket on me still. I don't know why I had my ticket. Don't ask questions. And I just said, hey, what, I didn't know him. He didn't know him, just some schmuck that walking the class. And I said hello for whatever reason. And I said, yeah, I went to the game and I got my ticket. You want to sign my ticket? He signed my ticket. And I told him, I go, great game. He played terrible. It was like his worst game of his life. I told him he played a great game. It was horrific. Again, he turned the ball over 4 times inside Auburn's 20. Still should have won. But there you go. I just saw Dante Culpepper popping up, and that inspired me. It's my brush with fame at Dante at UCF there. And you can sort of figure out what years I went to UCF as well. There you go. Shout out to Dante Culpepper, the UCF Knights, former national champions. We can't win it every single year. We got TCU playing what is it, Georgia? I don't follow college football really well.
Yep.
Do we have thoughts as far as that game?
I'm not a huge college football guy either. I mean, I casually follow it. I know Georgia's big favorites, but hopefully it's a closer game. I'll certainly watch it. I don't follow it closely throughout the season, but championship game should be a lot of fun.
Well, terrible job by us. Larry Fitzgerald, number 11, Drew Bledsoe, number 11, Phil Simms, number 11, and Julian Edelman. Totally forgot about that one. Just a total whiff. Dan Dakic, is that the guy that used to play for like the Lakers very, very briefly? Is that number 11? I don't recall there, but
I do not know him.
I'm not really sure. Apparently it was number 12. Correction there in chat. But all right. Can't do any worse than we did with 11. Maybe we'll get a number later on in the show, and we'll totally redeem ourselves. That said, anything else that's worth noting as far as the slate, an overview, you have a general thoughts? You kind of sort of gave it to some degree. Anything else we should say, or everything else going to kind of come up organically as we break it down game by game?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it generally. I think just worth reiterating, it's a pretty easy build. I think you can definitely there's plenty of value between the Lakers and the Spurs, with potentially even more opening up in Memphis. It's like you can pretty much do whatever you want today, I think.
By the way, hilarious. The Heat just dropped their stuff, their injury report for tomorrow. It's not today, thankfully, but Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, all questionable.
Of course they are.
My favorite.
If the Heat have less than 8 players on the injury report, it's a good day.
Caleb Martin ruled out for what it's worth. Jesus. And I think Bam's wrist is supposed to be kind of not super serious, but I wouldn't be surprised if he sits, but who knows? We'll see. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Maybe that'll change a couple of times before we tip off tomorrow night. Tonight, very first game on the slate. It is the Pelicans. The Pelicans at the Wizards. 228 is the total. Wizards are 1.5-point favorites here. Only game at 7 o'clock, by the way. McCollum expected back tonight from his rest. We're also expecting Nance to give it a go with his shoulder. He is probable. Zion and Ingram still out. Still plenty of uses to go around. Speaking of uses to go around, Washington again without Bradley Beal. McCollum, obviously he's the top dog now, but you got to pay for him for sure. I think that's the first conversation we should have. How much are we prioritizing McCollum when it comes to the stars on this slate?
I definitely think that you want some. He has a massive ceiling here without Zion, without Brandon Ingram. Should see usage around 30%, probably above. It's 8,500 is a tough price for CJ in a vacuum, but when you consider the 2 stars that are out, it's his team. He should do most of the damage here for New Orleans. So I think he's a fantastic play. He's still a little bit underpriced, even though the price is coming up.
All right, giving the lineup HQ a refresh. I want to see if we have an update as far as ownership. It looks like we have an update as of maybe 10 minutes ago or so. Surely we'll get one before lock, but as of right now, 10 minutes ago, the biggest ownership player in this game, not surprisingly, is McCollum. This is DK specific at 24%. Najee Marshall at 5.5, expected to get 18% ownership. Valanciunas at 6.6 as far as his asking price, 12%. The tricky part, of course, of Valanciunas is that Nance is expected back. The matchup is good, right? We're giving Joe Val 28 minutes, and he should smash those 28 minutes. Is there a chance he gets a few more? Sure. But there's also a chance he gets a few less if we're thinking Nance closes. What's your lean here? Are you afraid a little bit to some degree to roster Valanciunas in the absence of possibly Valanciunas closing, or you think there's some upside? Or maybe he just smashes in the first 3.5 quarters, doesn't matter. What are we doing with Joe Val?
Joe Val is not a guy I generally like to play just because of the minutes and being all over the place. Like Thomas Bryant is a fantastic cheap center on this slate, but that's leaving Jonas really low owned too, showing about 12.5% right now. So it's intriguing. He certainly has ceiling to smash this price, but he just doesn't do it quite enough for me to want to prioritize him. I'm going to want some Jokic. I'm going to want some Thomas Bryant. Center spots are a premium. I'm just not sure I'm getting too much Joe Val.
All right, producer Rob's going to chat pick the next number, by the way, for what it's worth. And yeah, they're talking about the Bears getting. Shout out to the. Oh, you're a Bears fan, aren't you? Shout out to the Bears. How much of a Texans fan were you yesterday?
I mean, I was only watching Red Zone until like that last drive, and then I was like trying to find a stream of it. But yeah, 4th and 20, and I mean, it went right through the DB's hands, which was just amazing. Incredible run out for my Chicago Bears for sure.
How much did you? Cooks he hates the Texans. He hates them so bad. I'm going to show up and play good just to make sure you don't get the number 1 pick.
Did you guys see the guy that lost $2 million because of that game?
I did not. No,
I did not either.
It was a survivor pool thing, and there was 3 people left. I might get some of the facts wrong, but I know this one particular guy had the Indianapolis Colts, and that's the way he lost out on chopping like 3.5 or something $million.
Ouch.
I don't feel so bad now about my survivor. I had the Colts as well, and I would have finished. The league that I'm in, you pick the entire season, so it's like if you get a loss, you still continue. It's a compiling thing. And you can only use like one team once. It's a pretty fun league. And I was going to finish first if the Colts, but I finished like for 3rd or 2nd. But it wasn't for $3 million, so I feel a little bit better. I'm glad that guy lost money, so now I feel better by comparison.
Wow, Dean is a villain. We all knew it.
Well, wait, didn't somebody win now because this guy lost?
The other 2 people that were still left in it, they both picked winners. One was the Jags, and I forget who the other one was. But
they kept the Jags all the way to the end. Shout out to them. Good job.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So congratulations to your Bears, man. Hopefully they don't blow it. I'm curious what they'll do as far as trade down, or are they going to pick a quarterback? I mean, I think Fields can be a guy in the future, but he's not like a lock and load, right? It's a interesting conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many holes on the roster. I think the trade down certainly makes sense. Like grab a few extra picks. The extra first rounder would certainly be helpful. So to me, that makes the most sense. Trade down. Ideally, you try to stay in the top 3 or 4, though, even if you're trading down.
You know what made that game more fun, by the way? Putting a picture on like the Houston owner watching that game. Like that would have been like fantastic television. Because he was like,
or the GM.
Or yes. Well, GM's probably gone, right? I don't know. Maybe he's gone. Maybe he's not. I don't know the situation. But Lovey apparently is gone, so he doesn't care. And the players, they want to put good tape out there. They're not sure they're going to be back with the Texans anyway. What do they care? They have no loyalty. So that was pretty awesome. All right. As somebody that doesn't root for any team in the NFL, I just thought it was pretty amazing. Rest of the pieces as far as New Orleans. We talked about CJ. We talked about Marshall. I kind of mentioned Marshall in passing, but is he somebody for you as like a priority, or is he just kind of like one of those guys that just makes stuff work at 5'5"?
At 5'5", he's kind of just a guy that makes stuff work. When he was in the low 4Ks, he obviously was popping as one of the top values in the past week. I think he's still in play. He sees a nice usage bump with Zion off the court. We've seen him put up big games each of the last 2. But now that price tag is coming up, there's a little bit of ownership coming with him as well. Certainly won't be a priority for me. I don't mind taking pivots within this New Orleans team, though. I like New Orleans as a pivot off of Lakers value and off of Spurs value. So guys like Trey Murphy, although his price is up a little bit too, but he's not coming with the ownership that Najee is. And Larry Nance, I think you can take some shots on. Jose Alvarado as well. Like, I don't mind going deeper on this Pelicans roster. They're not going to project near as well as the Lakers, but if that game gets out of hand and the popular Lakers chalk fails, you certainly have a leg up if you've got Pelicans.
I talk about a lot, like, backloading lineups and like waiting for information to come out. Don't talk about enough, probably. Like, this is the only 7:00 game, right? There's a 9:00 game, there's a 10:00 game. By 9:00, you'll kind of know. Like, say you go off the board and play like Alvarado, who's like a 5% guy as far as ownership, but say he smashes. Like, there's value in knowing that too. If you have like other, you know what I mean? Like, as far as setting your lineups going forward, like, you could just all of a sudden, theoretically, if it's possible, if games haven't started yet, say Alvarado, just for sake of the conversation, puts up like a 40 spot and nobody has him. Like, you can just hit, put Alvarado in your lineup in the optimizer and just click optimize around him. And then you don't have to be, you understand the point I'm making?
Yeah, absolutely. You might as well, like, when you have a 5% own play that has smash, you can be really chalky around that because that's enough to differentiate you right there already.
Yeah, you can re-rack your lineup, and like if you have something goofy in there, like try to get away from that goofy play that like you're begging for something, just sort of like change your fortunes. And then obviously vice versa, if you have a player that completely tanks, or if you have like Keldon Johnson who's out for the game after the first quarter or the second quarter, I'm not bitter about having like a 307 with Keldon, whatever it was. Not bitter about it at all last week. But yeah, then it's like, well, you're not going to catch up playing the same guys everybody else is playing. Try something different, even if it makes no sense. There's no shame in finishing last, right? If you finish 50th percentile, who cares? It's still worth nothing. How about Washington? No Bradley Beal. Gafford. So they did something different. I guess because they're getting walloped last game. They benched. I think they benched Gafford at the half, and they started. Who did they start in the second half?
I believe it was Goodwin.
Yep. Yeah. So just be alert. We'll see the lineup, obviously. You think that's going to change, or you think that was basically because they were getting walloped and they're trying to just kind of shake things up? We're expecting Gafford to start.
I'm expecting Gafford to start. I think that's what they were just trying to find a spark off the bench. So they went with a little bit of a different lineup. Gafford still played 25 minutes. So I definitely like him. I prefer him to Joval as like one of the lower owned centers. 4,700 is a nice price. Even if he only gets the 25 minutes, I think he's capable of paying off 4,700 for sure.
Zinger, I like. He's just fully priced at 9.4, but for sure I'm good with Porzingis. Like not a lot of ownership coming in this team outside of Gafford, center and center only, like you talked about. 15% on DK. We're projecting 27 minutes. We're giving Goodwin 13 minutes, by the way, and 15 fantasy points and a 5% ownership, which I don't know. That's does that all add up to me? Not really, but he's stoned in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's stone minimum. There's probably not a whole lot of viable plays in that. I suppose you could probably take shots on him just in case they do that same thing where he gets a little extra run in the second half. Yeah.
And then is New Orleans the team we're going to start two bigs against? We're going to start Gafford and Porzingis against. So we're going to close against them. How is it feels like one of those like depending on what New Orleans does, like then Washington might change, or depending on what Washington does, New Orleans might change. As far what I mean, like there's some guys that like correlate each other, and some that don't.
like Gafford and Valanciunas are certainly correlated. If one is on the floor, the other most likely will be as well.
Yeah, that was my thought process. So maybe if you think Nance closes, maybe you think Gafford doesn't close. If that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense to me.
Question in chat from Mark: will Nance get enough minutes? We're currently giving 20 to Joval and 20 to Nance. We're just chopping up those center minutes that way, but it certainly could change. There's more fluidity to Nance's projection, I think, than most. What do you think? Can Nance get enough minutes tonight to make him worth a roster spot?
Yeah, I like Larry Nance quite a bit, actually. We saw 20 minutes in the last game that he played. We've seen as much as upper 20s from him this season. He played 33 in one game. They're extremely shorthanded, and Nance working his way back from the injury hasn't been one of these guys who's been seeing additional usage and everything else that goes along with Zion being out, because Nance was out also. So his price is still very friendly. I think there's a ton of room up on Nance. Like 20 is probably the floor. 18, I guess, would be the official floor, I would say. But he could see 24 to 26 minutes pretty easily here.
By the way, just came a couple minutes ago, actually. Morris, Kispert, Kuzma, Porzingis, and Gafford. Gafford is starting for Washington. Anything else here of notes as far as Washington? Are you excited? We were considering rostering like Kuzma. We should at least give him a mention, an acknowledgement. But he's pretty pricey. Don't love him. He's fine, but he's not going to be in many of my lineups, if any. I don't think. I don't make a ton. I don't think he's getting there for me.
Yeah, not for me either. With him being priced up, just not a comfortable roster. I would much rather save it for something later on in the slate. The only I'm going to have Gafford for sure, just because I'm playing a lot of Pelicans. Maybe Avdia is another guy you could consider. Like if Kuzma struggles shooting, maybe Avdia takes a little bit more of that role. We've seen him put up some decent games here recently. So I am looking for a little more Washington exposure, but there just is not a ton to love. It's very clearly Gafford as the top play. And then I think I might do weird shots on like Avdia and Goodwin just because of the short slate.
You think it's completely crazy just to not play anybody in this game and just kind of wait till 7:30, maybe something else trickles out as far as news?
I don't think it's crazy. I like the ownership in this game. I like the game environment, and we're missing stars on both sides of this game. So I think it's very possible that there are some big scores here. So I would not skip it, but I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I like some plays too. There's no like smash. Is there somebody that's going to be like just destroying the world that like if I don't have him, close the laptop maybe, but I don't think so.
I mean, McCollum could do that. I think
could be. Yeah. All right, let's talk about your Chicago Bulls at the Boston Celtics. 235 is the total. Boston is about an 8-point favorite here. Caruso, we're expecting to play with his ankle. I think he said so himself. Otherwise, Chicago pretty healthy. Javonte Green unavailable, not a big deal. We got somebody out for Boston, Marcus Smart. He's got a knee. Therefore, we're expecting the starting lineup to be White, Brown, Tatum, Grant Williams, and Horford. That is our projected starting lineup, not official. There are some stars to pay for in this game. They're all just fully priced, right? I mean, Chicago, I'm using the term stars loosely. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have Tim chime in later to tell us who officially is or is not a star. But the big three for Chicago, if we're going to call it that, DeRozan, 9K. He's been good in this matchup for what it's worth this season against Boston. He's played well against them. But again, fully priced 9K. Levine, he's had his moments of late, obviously. Priced up to 7.5. I think there's a little bit of meat in that bone still. And there's Vuk, who he's not going to grab a ton of ownership at all. We're seeing 8K, therefore 1% owned against Boston. Talk about your Bulls.
Yeah, I don't love this game overall. And that partly is because it's expensive to play it, because you would want to play one of the Bulls' top three, and you would want to play Tatum or Brown on the other side, I think. So it's a very expensive thing to do. If you want to prioritize this game, you certainly have the option to do that. There's plenty of value throughout the slate. I just think I prefer other game environments. I prefer other studs more than the guys in this game. But on the Bulls side, it's Levine for me would be the priority, and that's just because of the price. He's been playing a lot better of late. I think he's trying to find his way out of Chicago, honestly. So maybe we see him not yield as much to DeRozan as he has in the past. I think that I agree with you. There's plenty of meat on the bone for Levine at 7,500. He would be my number one option from the Wolves.
What's happening at your Bulls? Are they blowing it up? Is somebody getting traded at the deadline? And if they trade one, wouldn't you try to trade two? Like, why would you go halfway? What's the story?
Yeah.
What are you speculating as far as Chicago?
I don't think what they've built here is good enough to win. So then, to me, the only option is you might as well blow it up. So we'll see what they end up doing. But yeah, Levine sounds like isn't terribly happy with the way things have gone, and obviously DeRozan is up there in age. So yeah, I think you might as well blow it up.
It's not good enough to win, and it's not like you can look at DeRozan and Vuk and say, well, if they can get a little bit better and this guy gets – like this is the best they're going to be, right? This is the max you're getting out of those guys. So you can't look at them and say, like, well, improvements here, improvements there. They've maxed out. And
I certainly understand the way they built it. The Lonzo Ball injury was obviously a massive blow, and Patrick Williams not developing as quickly as they had hoped is also another huge problem. So it was worth a shot for last year, I believe, but I think it pretty clearly didn't work, and it's time to change direction.
All right, the Celtics, no Smart, therefore we're getting a bump in minutes across the board on several players. Brogdon getting the most ownership right now, 5.3 on DK. likely coming off the bench as he typically does, but we're giving him 27 minutes. 22% as far as ownership. Grant Williams, just because he's cheap and makes stuff work. He's not a great fantasy player, but we're giving him 29 minutes right now. You mentioned like Tatum and Brown, and you want some Tatum and Brown, right, in theory, but they're just really fully priced. They're tough to get to. We saw Tatum destroy a slate last week against Luka when Boston just absolutely destroyed Dallas. You had to have him that night on a short slate. But look, 7% ownership for Tatum. Like, nobody's discouraging and saying he's not good. It's just we live in a world with salary cap, and he doesn't really fit the cap. But maybe that's reasons why you get above it. You're running your 20 lineups, I presume. Where is Tatum and Brown going to get you? Because it's not that hard to get over. But again, they just don't make a ton of a sense when you're just kind of building math wise.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Not guys I'm trying to get over on. I would have more Tatum than Brown just because he has a higher ceiling in my opinion. And he's coming with lower ownership as well, but I'll probably have like 2 Tatum Levine stacks and 1 Jaylen Brown Levine stack. And that's going to be about the extent of my exposure from this game. Brogdon makes a lot of sense as a value piece, but as far as just targeting the game, that's probably all I'm doing in my 20 lineups.
Grant Williams is not going to blow the slate up, you're saying?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's super, super cheap. And I'm trying to think of the other cheapies that are on the slate that he would contend with, I suppose. Gabriel, I guess, with the Lakers will be one of them. Possibly, well, depending on what happens with Adams, like Xavier Tillman could be crazy chalk if Adams doesn't go, right? Of course, Clark is out as well. And I think there's also a path for Tillman, even if Adams plays, to just do some garbage time work as well if you want to tell yourself that story against San Antonio. I think those are some of the cheapies that we'll see if Richardson plays. If he doesn't go, maybe somebody else for San Antonio kind of breaks out. Just is there anybody else off the top of your head you can think of as far as a super cheapie that would be in that conversation?
Those are the ones that certainly make the most sense. I think you could look at the Lakers for some potential guys who are projected in like the teens right now as far as minutes, who could end up with like 24 in the event of a blowout. Kendrick Nunn, Sterling Brown, Max Christie, we're projecting for a ton of minutes. Maybe he gets hot shooting the ball. But the Lakers are the team I would look to. Like, I think they're better pivots than trying to play the Boston guys.
Don't think I didn't notice the absence of Cole Swider and Scottie Pippen from that list for the Lakers.
Yeah, but what's their ceiling? 6-8 minutes?
I know they're 4-0.
Yep.
All right. Anything else that's worth saying as far as Chicago and Boston?
I don't have anything else. Maybe Robert Williams, 4,400, but again, center only. It's tough.
Are those minutes ever going to get extended, or it's like they know they need him for the playoffs? Fragile injury history. 21, 21, 18, 21. Like, and he's a good fantasy point player, better player in Fanduel with those stocks. Like, it's just that's what it's going to be. Are they going to work him beyond that, or there's no reason to, basically?
I mean, they might push it up into like the mid 20s, but he's not playing 30 minutes anytime soon. That's certainly not going to be the case. But I mean, as long as he's cheap, 41 points in his fantasy points on DK his last time out, he certainly has the capability to smash at that price. But that just being only on DK is tough for me. Like you mentioned, he's a better player on FanDuel, a little bit more expensive, but also has that power forward eligibility, which helps.
Yeah, but if he even jumped like from 21 to 24 minutes, I think that's a big jump.
Yes, it would. Yeah. And I think he could play 24 minutes tonight, but I think the most likely case is 21, 22.
1.17 on FanDuel as far as fantasy points per minute. Actually, is it more on DK? It is more on DK. It's kind of surprising. No, I read that wrong. 1.24 on FanDuel. That's really, really strong. And 1.18 on DK. Get these from the Grind Down, by the way, if you're curious where I'm pulling those numbers from. Is the Grind Down free this year? I don't know if it is. I know a guy. I got access. Is it free? Do you know? I'm not sure if the Grind Down is free for the people.
I think it is, but I don't know. I know the same guy, so.
Some years it's free and some years it's not. And my bad if it's not. But if it is, by all means, check out the Grind Down. It's worth reading for sure.
Feels like a good time to interject and give our next number.
Okay. Is it a good one?
I'm going based off the chat, and my predictions are you're going to guess a certain guy, and then I'm going to tell you the guy, and you're going to say, oh, and then I'm going to tell you the chat person, and you're going to go, oh, who they should have been. So lots of O's on this one. So the number is 88, and remember, we're going off of who is the quote-unquote quote unquote best person in sports to ever wear this number.
So the first name that immediately jumped to mind was Michael Irvin, but I think that's one of the guys that you're going to say not him. There's a hockey 88 that is certainly in play here, I believe.
Lindros.
Is that who it is?
That's what I thought of
But
when you said hockey.
What was Yager's number?
66.
Okay. I knew it was double digits like that.
The tight end, Tony Gonzalez.
Ooh, I like that. That's
got to be the answer, right?
Who's your guys' final answer?
Well, I mean, Lindros is like the best hockey guy, but he has his career shortened with injuries and concussions. Oh, Yager is 68? My bad. Yeah, I didn't say I was a hockey guy. Close, though. Judges? Tony Gonzalez is the best 88, I believe, right?
I think I'm with you there. In the conversation for best head end ever?
Correct. Yeah. You guys got it. It's Tony Gonzalez.
Love it.
I went to Irving as well. Chat brought up Dale Earnhardt, and I was like, that's a good one too. Dale Earnhardt Jr. But
yeah, I mean, senior might be in the conversation, but junior is not.
Well, I think they were going off popularity.
I mean, I follow it. Yes.
Okay.
I definitely played DFS for it and watched the races because of that. Grow up a NASCAR fan or anything, but
gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know the history very well. I've heard of those guys, Earnhardt, son and father, but couldn't tell you their numbers.
I'm picking the next number so that I can torture you guys a little bit more on it.
You want to give a 0? The Olden Polonies 0?
They do have 0 and 00 on this list.
Doubles? What is this, roulette? There's 00? Who's 00?
Actually, they only went with 00.
There's a 00 in sports? Was Rodman 00 or he's like 99?
Robert Parrish was 00, I believe, wasn't he?
I think
That's
he was
who they went
0.
with. They went with 00, and it is Robert Parrish. Notable name is Jim Otto.
He was 00, Robert Parrish. I didn't know that.
Yeah, 00.
It's redundant, but okay, fair enough. Let's move on. Let's talk. Would Robert Parrish just get like dunked on every single play this he played today? Well, how tall was he? Like, I feel like he was really tall. I know he was tall, but like, was he like NBA ready 2023?
The tallest person I've ever seen in my life that I've stood next to is Robert Parrish.
Yeah.
Randomly walking through the mall one day, he was just standing in the mall and he basically was already touching the second floor.
Did you tell him what a great game he played last night after he shot like 0 for 27?
Well, first of all, that's you indicating that I'm old, which I take great offense to. I do have a birthday coming up.
Happy birthday.
Well, we're a week away. You don't have to guess. You don't have to say it away. Yeah,
I'm gonna forget in a week.
Oh, I'm not going to be here in a week. So when I'm not here next Monday, it's because I'm old and probably dead. So
I was going to ask if you had plans, but I guess that is your plan. So, all right. There you go. Is there anything of note as far as the any other anecdotes, or are we moving on? We're powering through, right? We're good to go.
Yep. Keep on moving. Larry Nance officially a game time. Well, officially is a weird term, but Larry Nance is a game time decision.
Is that those where like Andy would step in and say like, "Hey, nothing has changed." He's still
yes.
Okay. All right. That's yeah. I just wanted to make sure that like nothing really has changed as far as his status, and we're not freaking out just yet. We're assuming he's still playing, basically. Okay. Milwaukee versus New York. 221 is the total. New York is a 1-point dog here. Chris Middleton, of course, is still out. Barrett is still out for New York. One of the big spends on this slate, well, I guess there was LeBron, there was Jokic, and there was Giannis Antetokounmpo. LeBron, of course, went away. Now, I think one of the decision points, obviously different positions, but, I guess Giannis, you could play at center as well. But Jokic versus Giannis, I think it's kind of an interesting conversation. Your thoughts on that, and then just Giannis in general.
Yeah, I mean, Drew coming back kind of makes this even more difficult. Jokic has been in much better form recently. I'm very concerned about the blowout for Jokic, I think. So right now, the way that we're projecting them ownership-wise, my lean is to go overweight on Giannis. I think it's definitely worth a conversation. You want exposure to both. But I am concerned about blowout for Jokic. He might absolutely smash in 3 quarters, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
but I have a slight preference for Giannis at this moment.
Giannis right now 9% currently owned on DK, which seems kind of low. I'm gonna imagine it's bigger on Fanduel. I think he's 11.8 over there. Should just jump over there. Take a peek as far as what Giannis is currently projected at. We'll look at it in a second. Yeah, 9% owned on Fanduel, where he's 11.8. You mentioned Holiday, and that's probably the more interesting conversation. I don't really know where we can get with it, but not starting, coming off the bench, then starting. I believe he started and played like 12 minutes in the first half, and then the game blew out and he played 9 minutes. So he's seen since coming back 18 minutes coming off the bench, then he rested, then 19 minutes, 12 minutes I think in the first half. It blew out versus Charlotte. What are we doing with Holiday? We're giving 30 minutes to him, and I don't know. He could play 27. Could he possibly play his normal like 32, 33? And if he does, 7.4 is a really good price. But I just think we're just kind of – it's an educated guess, but we're kind of guessing as far as Holiday's minutes today. Where are you at on this?
Yeah, it feels like they're being overly cautious almost with him, which makes sense. I mean, obviously they have much bigger plans than random games in January. I don't think I'm taking shots on him today. Smaller slate, I certainly understand it. If you want to go with the theory that he plays his full 34 minutes or whatever, more power to, like you said, he could certainly smash that price if he does it. It's a very good matchup against the Knicks for Holiday. So I would like him if I knew he was getting the minutes, but I'm even concerned he doesn't get to 30 minutes on this.
So am I. Yeah. I feel the same way. Yeah. So you're going to be.
You said 12 minutes in the first half. Sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry. I'm talking over you. Go ahead. Continue.
No, I was just going to say, 12 minutes in the first half, I think, is an important number in the last game because that puts him on pace for 24, 25, maybe 26. Does he get the bump even though he didn't play the full 24 to 26 minutes last game? Does that put him on path for 30 this game? I don't know. I think you need to be cautious that he could play 26 minutes in this spot.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And then, Milwaukee's got so many guys that come in and play minutes in the teens, Jingle and Joe, and they have Green they've worked in lately, Carter. And long story short, I don't think there's anybody feeling outside of Giannis. Lopez is just sort of the constant. He's always there. He's always like a tick overpriced. He rarely, if ever, has this big ceiling game. Do you like anybody on Milwaukee outside of Giannis? I don't think again, I'm not running 150. I don't think I'm playing anybody in Milwaukee outside of Giannis.
I'm either. If I was running 150, I think Bobby Portis is the name I would throw out, just because he has a pretty decent ceiling. He's a touch overpriced because he kind of went off here when Giannis and Drew were out. But I think Portis is the guy I would take some shots on if I was looking for additional Milwaukee exposure.
All right, New York, our biggest projected guy, which is a little bit surprising, but I think it's the price that's kind of putting us there, as always, right? Mitch Robb at 22%, 5.2K seems a little bit cheap. There's always the risk of foul trouble. Giannis is in the court on the other side, but assuming he dodges it, he's amongst the starters. He's projected to get the least amount of minutes, the 33. Every once in a while, Tibbs remembers he has other players that are not just sitting on the bench, just not spectators that were wearing jerseys and available to shoot basketballs. We're projecting 40 minutes for Randall, 38 for Quickly, 38 for the Brunson burner, who's been awesome of late. The absence, of course, of Barrett opening up a ton of minutes, and then Grimes getting 35. I don't necessarily love the matchup for Randall, but I don't know how much I care. I think I like Brunson more than Randall if I'm picking one of the two. Again, different position, different price. Start with New York because, not the greatest matchup in the world here against Milwaukee, but the minutes will be there almost definitely, barring goofiness. Who's your favorite New York Knick?
My favorite is going to be Brunson as well, just because of the savings you get off of Randall. And Randall probably matching up with Giannis quite a bit. If Drew was still out, this would be an absolute smash for Brunson. That is a slight dock for Brunson, I think. Drew's played pretty solid on-ball defense throughout his career, so he is a factor. But I still like Brunson. I think you can take some shots on Quickly as well. He's another guy that's just been out there for a ton of minutes. I don't think he has quite the ceiling with Brunson in there. Like he's just not going to handle the ball near as much. So Brunson is going to be my primary exposure here. I'll get up to Randall a little bit, but probably can't get over the field on his current ownership number. But Brunson is the guy I'd look to be overweight on.
Are we too ambitious here on Mitch Rob? We're giving him 30 fantasy points, 33 minutes as a median score, 22% as far as ownership. You feel like is that a little bit too ambitious? I think it's a little bit. Not that, if he puts up 29, I guess he's fine. In the cash game, he's not going to hurt you. Yeah, I don't know what to do with the Mitch Rob and being reasonably popular is kind of where I'm at on this.
Yeah, I mean he's been doing it recently is the thing. I think the likely outcome is it continues with Barrett still being out. They're just a little bit shorthanded right now. So I think I'm good with the projection, but I'll be underweight on Mitch Rob for sure.
That's what I'm trying to talk myself into as well. I think I'm supposed to be underweight on it. But it is like a cheap way to get, a piece of this game. If you want a piece of this game, if you want to run back for Giannis and, the money for somebody like Randall, I'm going to try to get Brunson. I think Brunson and Giannis obviously feels like a really, really good, if you're just picking one from each side, a nice little mini game stack. Anything else that we should note here? Do you like anybody coming off the bench for New York? I don't. I can't tell myself the story of like the resurrection of Evan Fournier. Never Google him. No. It's what are we doing here? We're not playing anybody on the bench, right?
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay. Let's move on. Game number 4, right? Is it's 6 or 7? I thought it was 6. Am I losing my mind here?
6 games, yeah.
Yes. What? Okay. It is. Okay. Yeah. That's 3 down, 3 on layaway. Plenty of time for conversation with the chat as well. Whatever's in your mind. If we're not covering somebody, if we're not talking about somebody, by all means, say like, why didn't you talk about so and so or elaborate on that? Happy to do so. Break's also mentioning the matchup for Mitch Rob is not ideal with Lopez being pretty solid defensively. Also, if you want to tell yourself a story that he drags you away from the basket sometimes, maybe we get a few less rebounds for Robinson or rebounding opportunities. If you're, Lopez lurking around the 3-point line offensively a lot, just of note.
I think both of those are very fair points.
Yeah, and maybe like Randall gets a couple extra boards for that reason. He gets a couple that Mitch Rob would have got, but he's standing out with a 3-point line or in the corner or something like that. Okay, we have 3 more games to go. Next one up, San Antonio, Memphis, 237 as a total. San Antonio is about a 12 to 13-point dog here. Memphis on the back half of a back-to-back. We were both a little bit surprised that we saw nothing on the injury report as far as Bane resting. He played yesterday. He's yet to play a back-to-back since coming back from his injury. As far as we know, he is good to go. Morant, how about that at all? A thigh, so he's questionable. And Steven Adams had the fish, so he is questionable. He's ill. Brandon Clark, his direct backup, is also out. So it could be a path for Xavier Tillman if Adams does not go. It could be more minutes for a guy like Triple J. Jaren Jackson as well. Of course, if John Morant doesn't go, it's just lock and load city for Tyus Jones, right? Like DK made him 4.9, and that's an outrageous price. 5.2 on Fanduel, still not high enough. If we get Morant out, you make 20 lineups. How many of those 20 lineups do we see Tyus Jones in?
At least 18, I would think.
Yeah, you couldn't go the full 20, but yeah, at least 18.
I might want a hedge lineup or 2, but yeah, he'd be pretty much a lock button at that price.
Yeah, I want to see if we have a what if. I assume we created one if not, but I'm sure the what if has them being like a monster value if Morant happens to sit. What if Morant happens to play this up against San Antonio? We talk about it all the time. Worst defensive team in basketball. He would. Like, who's going to stop Ja? I'm saying that he's just going to roast him. Of course, you can make the argument, well, it's going to be a blowout, and, he sits the entire fourth quarter, and I suppose that's possible too. But you can also say, ownership-wise, like I feel like people aren't thinking about playing Ja. They're thinking about maybe Tyus Jones. But, like, what if Morant plays? How do you feel about Morant as a play? Of course, it's a good play. Just will he get 35 minutes against San Antonio to have a good time out there? I don't know. What do you do with that if Ja's in?
Yeah, I think you would want to play him. There's plenty of value on this slate, so you're going to be able to afford a couple of studs on each lineup. I generally prefer to stack them in the same game, but if you wanted to run a Giannis Ja type of team, I think there's plenty of value where you can do that here, and then you run it back with Spurs value on a team like that. I would certainly have exposure to Ja if he's in.
So we have a what if Adams is out. Do we have one of them? Let's see. I see what if Adams is out, what if Ja and Adams is out, and what if Adams. Okay, yeah. Okay. Individually and both. We have Tillman spiking to a huge value. If Adams is out, we're giving him 31 minutes, close to 30 fantasy points, basically, as a projection. He's essentially still minimum. He's just same question. But if Adams is out, do you want to just say, screw it, I'm just going to play Tillman and that's that? Or this is another one of those slight hedges where you're like maybe 17 or 18 lineups?
You could certainly lock button him because of the price. It just depends on your center spots and how many, like Pirtle on the other side, I think becomes an awesome play. He's already a great play. He's an awesome play if Steven Adams misses this game. Thomas Bryant, I think, is a very strong play as well. So I don't know that I would go 100% just because of how strong center is. And then Jokic, of course, obviously.
Yeah, if we have both Adams and Ja out, like we're projecting Bane for 43 points, 41 Fanduel, and that's assuming Bane's playing in the back-to-back. Tyus Jones, 35 fantasy points, which is, obviously a good math play. Again, Triple J, close to 40 fantasy points as well. Just all these Memphis guys look really, really good. Obviously, if Ja would sit, tons of usage taking a bench there, and then Adams giving up a ton of minutes as well. And that's the thing. What if we don't know this by 7:01? That's kind of what I was getting at before. What if we don't know the Memphis situation? It's an hour after the very first game of New Orleans and Washington. And maybe I don't want to tie up Jose Alvarado because then I'm like, all of a sudden I got Jose Alvarado competing against Tyus Jones, and I don't like my chances if Ja is out. You know what I mean? So it's some decision points is kind of what I was getting at. And we don't know when we're going to get these questions or these answers to these questions.
Yes. I mean, obviously, Tyus Jones would project as a far better play in the event Ja was out. But I don't think it's a slam dunk that Alvarado doesn't outscore him, even if Ja is out. Okay. Tillman is a little bit more difficult, though. Like, I guess you would need severe foul trouble for him not to get there, more than likely. On FanDuel, where Tillman has power forward eligibility, he would be a total lock button for me. But yeah, I totally understand. And that's why I'm not going like crazy with the New Orleans stuff, but I'm just talking a lineup or two where I want some pivots away from what is now the chalk is the Lakers and the Spurs, possibly could become Memphis as well. But I want to bake in some of those from that first game as well. Just in case, like if Ja plays, and then we're talking about Lakers chalk, who they could potentially get blown out. The Spurs could potentially get blown out. Like, I think there are ways that the chalk could fail if the news doesn't break exactly how you want it to.
So even if if Morant and Adams both play, Bane still looks like a good math play right now, as is. But the story you might want to tell yourself, or I'm thinking about, like he was great last game. Good to see him come back. We was hitting his threes as well. Put up a 50-burger, I believe, against Utah. That's a good matchup for him against Utah. Utah gives up all the threes. No. Utah, inversely, bad matchup. He defied it. Utah really good as far as defending the three-point line. Point is, I'm just kind of asking, just kind of thinking, if Memphis is pulling away, I feel like Bane in the back half of back-to-back will be one of the first guys kicked off the court. Is that a reasonable assumption?
Yes, that is reasonable. And I would be concerned they take it easy on his minutes, even if it is a little closer to begin. Like, they're not going to push him on a back-to-back, I wouldn't think, into the 32. Like, I wouldn't expect an uptick on the minutes from what we've seen so far from him. So I don't know. I'm flirting with the idea of going underweight on Bane, which is a scary thing. I think he's an awesome player, and the price is low because he missed so much time. But I am concerned about his ceiling with the minutes. If you look at his game against Utah, he had a pile of assists. If Ja is playing, he's not getting 9 assists. Like, there's just no way that's happening. So if Ja's in, I'll probably end up underweight on Bane.
What about the San Antonio side, where we don't know about Richardson? If he goes, he looks like he could be a pretty good value. As far as San Antonio, we know without Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, like their two best players amongst a group of players that aren't that great, are not going to go. Pirtle available to go, who Pirtle probably would benefit. Well, I don't know. I was going to say he would benefit with Adams being out there just because matching size with size. But I don't know how much they're going to push Pirtle. And he's also one of those guys that if this game gets ugly, he turns in the columns pretty quickly, I think, in the fourth quarter. And San Antonio still has plenty of dudes, with McDermott and Sohan and KBD, Langford. Math-wise, Trey Jones looks like a pretty good play because he's going to get a lot of usage thrown his way. But, again, this game is dicey as far as staying close. But if it does, Jones probably has himself a pretty solid game. What do you do with the Spurs?
I mean, they're certainly in play because of their price. So you think Pirtle is better if Adams is in because of the minutes upside?
I was just sort of thinking like matchup wise, like they're similar players, right? They're both guys, tall dudes, girthy dudes that play by, close to the basket. They're not going to drag you away, and they seem like guys that match up well with each other. That's all I was just thinking that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly true. But if Adams is out, that means that there's no one to match up with Pirtle. And Pirtle might be the reason that this game is staying close, is kind of how I'm viewing it. Like, I have a ton of interest in Pirtle if Adams is out, because I think he could be the San Antonio they just go to Pirtle every time down. And he's the reason that this game stays close. And even if it's close enough into the fourth quarter, like Pirtle's going to get his 28 minutes, and he's probably not going to play much more than that.
Okay, yeah, that's a better point that I was making. I think Eileen, you sold me that I was making a bad point. Tillman's not huge, right? And I'm trying to think. He's the biggest guy they have available. Maybe Triple J is like the second biggest guy for Memphis, right. And I suppose he would play some backup five. Is that what they would do if Adams doesn't go? They would start Tillman and maybe Jackson and
Aldama maybe potentially could play some five.
Yeah, he could play some small ball five, I suppose. Yeah. Did we mention Triple J, Jaren Jackson? Because he's certainly of note as well.
I believe we kind of skipped over him, but that's a great point. Always a guy with a ceiling, can pile up a ton of blocks. If Ja were to miss, he's gonna pop like crazy as a great play.
So this could make a pretty interesting game, especially with thinking about this game staying close. And oh man, if Adams doesn't go and Ja doesn't go, like you could just start a team with like Tyus Jones and Tillman, and then Pirtle and Jones. I know a lot of people are probably doing that. That seems like it kind of builds itself, right? And like you're not spending a lot of money either, so you can also get a couple stars around that. How would you build a game stack? And I go, there's a lot of hypotheticals because we don't really know what's happening as far as Memphis or even Richardson. If he goes, now he's ill, and we don't know what that means, how ill he may or may not be. But if he plays, I assume he's good to go. We've seen before where guys play and then in the middle of the first quarter, like, yeah, I tried, and that's it. I'm out. It's not happening. But where are you at right now as far as how you'd build a game stack here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd do Pirtle Jones and then run it back, assuming that Ja and Adams are out. I wouldn't run it back with like Bain and Triple J and Tyus Jones. I think you need to differentiate within the game at some point. I would say looking to secondary Spurs, like perhaps a Sohan, McDermott even is really cheap. I think you could include a weird piece like that just kind of differentiates your stack a little bit.
Yeah. Anything else of note as far as this game before we move on?
I think that covers it. There's plenty of value here, and the Richardson news is kind of like noteworthy and worth paying attention to, because you could see a bump up on minutes for guys like Sohan, Romeo Langford, Stanley Johnson even is a guy who's played minutes. Like there's a bunch of 3K Spurs who could potentially be viable if Richardson were to sit.
Who's the best one amongst that group? I think top of my head, I feel like it's maybe Branham, but I don't know if that's true. McDermott is fine at 3-2.
You're talking just 3K guys, right? Because Sohan would Yeah, I mean, Sohan would be a great play, I think, if Richardson sits. But yeah, as far as like per minute, it might be Stanley Johnson. That's probably not correct. None of them are great per minute. Like,
yeah,
the answer is McDermott is the best per minute, but he probably only plays 20 minutes, even if Richardson sits. Like
he doesn't start most likely, and maybe he doesn't even close if this game gets ugly.
And I'm checking. I don't think he's played over 25 minutes all season. Yeah, there's a couple of 26s in there. But yeah, he's generally around like the 18-minute mark. And even when he gets extended, it's like 22 minutes. So there's still a limited ceiling on McDermott.
Yeah. And our projections like him right now as is. Like we're giving him 20 minutes and 19 fantasy points and 18% ownership just because he's 3.2K. And it tends to be like our projections, like when you hit optimals, they tend to go, stars and scrubs, right? And McDermott will be one of those scrubs. Yeah. And he couldn't look worse, right? If we get Richardson being ruled out. Richardson,
right?
We're giving,
yeah, obviously, if Richardson gets ruled out, you have 25 minutes to disperse. I don't think 10 of those are going to Doug McDermott.
No.
Is the point I'm making. He's going to get like a 2 to 4 minute bump.
Yeah, and there's not a direct line of like, well, this guy's going to shoot all the way up. It's going to be you get 3 and you get 5 and you get 4, and like I think it's going to be things like that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yep. I would say Stanley Johnson and Branham probably get the biggest bump as far as minutes.
Yeah, we're currently giving Johnson 15 and Branham 22 for what it's worth. Okay, yeah, just kind of keep an eye on that, and then if Richardson plays, he looks like a fine play also.
Yep.
Lakers, Denver, 237.5 is the total. Lakers.
Before we do the Lakers game,
let's go for it.
Let's go with another jersey number. And who is the best player, according to Bleacher Report?
Yeah.
Send all hate mail to Bleacher Report, to Dean Zatari. Don't send it to me. Who is the best number 44 in the history of sports?
Is this yours or no?
Is this my what?
Was this the chat who nominated this, or this is yourself?
I had to take over for the chat because,
I mean, I think there's a pretty clear one from baseball. No longer plays.
Certainly.
It's
going to be pretty tough. It's going to be pretty tough to top that one, I think.
Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson was 44.
Aaron's miles better than Jackson.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm just trying to think who else. Aaron always just played did he play 25 years, something like that? Like he didn't have a lot of years where he hit like 50 home runs. I don't think
No, he was just ultra consistent.
Yeah, he just.
I don't think he ever hit 50 home runs. I think you're correct. He had 40 a couple times, but I don't think he ever had 50.
Yeah, he just stuck around and never got hurt. Eric Davis, yeah, I remember Eric Davis for the Cincinnati Reds. He was awesome for like 5 years. I don't remember being 44, but I'll take your word on it. But yeah, I think
are we going Hank Aaron?
Unless he's a basketball guy, I can't think of any significant 44s in basketball.
Some old school guy, I'm sure, that we're not thinking of.
There are 2 significant basketball ones, but Hank Aaron is the correct answer. The significant basketball ones are Pistol Pete Maravich and George Gervin.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough.
I'm sorry you didn't play him on a random slate on a November night in, 2012, Dean. But
Pistol Pete Maravich? I don't think I would have faded him that night. According to the chat, Mutombo was 44. I don't remember that.
No. He was 55. I'm almost positive he was 55.
Maybe a different number in Denver as opposed to Atlanta?
Oh, that could be. He might have. Yeah. You might be right there.
According to Joe, the great Hubert Davis was number 44. How can we ignore Hubert Davis, former Dallas Maverick, I believe? Like kind of a
sharpshooter, right?
Yep. Yeah. I would say sharpshooter, but he probably is like a terrible 3-point shooter compared to what they
compared to today. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, John Riggins was a running back that had a 44, which is just weird. You don't really see those very often for Washington back in the day. Danny Ainge was 44. Did not know that. Danny Ainge and his 27 draft picks there for Utah, looking pretty good. But there you go. All right, we shall move on. Lakers and Denver. 237, that's a big boy total. Of course, Denver is a 12 to 13-point favorite against the Lakers. That's what happens when LeBron is not playing basketball tonight. No LeBron. No Troy Brown for what it's worth. No Anthony Davis, obviously. Austin Reeves and Lonnie Walker also out. Therefore, this Laker team is pretty ravaged. And Denver is fully healthy. Everybody's good. I'm not counting Jeff Green. They're fully healthy. They're good to go. we're projecting Schroeder, Beverly, JTA, Wanyan Gabriel, and Thomas Bryant to draw the start for the Lakers here, with Westbrook coming off the bench and playing a bunch of minutes as well. Talk about the Lake Show, because you got to get, there's some cheap pieces here. I know the chat's going to say it's expected to be a blowout, and, just bet Denver then. Just don't play DFS. Put all your money on DFS on the Nuggets, and there you go. You double. You're not going to get like a win a GBP, but you'll double your money if you're right. Talking about the Lakers.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this game. I think there's a couple ways you can play it. If you're playing Jokic on the other side, you absolutely want one of Westbrook, Thomas Bryant, or Dennis Schroeder, or multiple of those guys. But I think you certainly want to run back Jokic exposure. Like, they're all too cheap for their role. Obviously, with no LeBron, no AD, it's just, do they get their full run of minutes? It is something worth considering, but I don't build my lineups in against blowout protection unless I'm targeting the opposite side of it, like the cheap guys that we talked about a little bit. But I think Westbrook, Bryant, Schroeder, all fantastic plays, far too cheap. Gabriel, I could certainly make the case to go underweight on that. There's no doubt he could just put up 15 fantasy points and not be relevant on this slate. So that's the way I would try to get away from Lakers, is just build a different, I don't think you want to try to find the guy who's going to end up, who's projected for 18 minutes right now, who ends up playing 24 minutes in the game. You don't want to do that in a Lakers Denver stack. You want that in a lineup that does not include Jokic or significant Denver pieces.
Thomas Bryant averaging 1.15 fantasy points per minute. DK. Gabriel, pretty solid as well. 0.89. Schroeder, 0.76. But of course, a lot of this stuff is going to get higher, get boosted in the absence of LeBron, in the absence of Davis. We talked about JTA last show. I still can't do it. 0.6 fantasy points per minute. His usage is 10%. We're not playing JTA, are we? If you're really scraping the barrel, I would take shots with other guys first. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
And we're not even certain he even closes. I suppose there's a chance, but he's one of those guys that starts and unlikely to close. But you're talking about building lineups. Are you putting in of if you're 2 or 3 Lakers are going to run it back with 1 or 2 players from Denver? Or no, not necessarily.
I don't have that in currently, but I don't think it's necessary for the Lakers side. They're cheap enough that they could pay off their prices even in a blowout. I think you do need to do that for Jokic for sure. If you're playing Jokic, like I mentioned, you want one of Westbrook, Bryant, or Schroeder. I think they're the best of those organically,
right?
They're going to be popping quite a bit. Yes.
We got 43% ownership on DK for Westbrook, which is, possible blowout. Also a guy that's not going to start. So it's if the game is blowing out, he misses the first portion of the third quarter, and he misses the last, 5 or 6 minutes of the game. It's just a lot of minutes that he's losing. But, I suppose that's the risk you're taking. But Westbrook, we're giving him a huge projection, 47 fantasy points at 7-7. That's a monster number. I feel like I need to run a court IQ on this. I know it's going to pop.
It's less than he scored in the last 3, so seems right to me.
Yeah. I mean, the matchup isn't great, but yeah, he's going to have the ball in his hands basically the entire game. Wow.
Okay. I don't think it's a bad matchup. I'm not scared of Denver. They've
struggled. Denver. Denver at home is just a tough place to play in that altitude. Maybe it's in my brain, but maybe I'm wrong. I suppose that's possible too. Denver doesn't play especially fast.
I'm seeing if there is a defensive rating at home split. It's not something I ever look at, but I think Denver is a unique case, and you could potentially, if it exists, I'd be curious to see what it says. I can't find it immediately, so we'll move on, but I'd be curious to see what that says.
Yeah, they're not a great defensive team for what it's worth. That's a fair point that you're making. I'm
23rd.
23rd
ranked defense on the season, and half of those games are at home, obviously. So curious to know if they're significantly better defensively at home.
Over under, as far as current projected ownership, you're going to be over under. Let's play this game. Westbrook at 43%. As of right now, you reserve the right to change your mind. You're going to be over or under that.
So because of the Memphis situation,
Yeah.
I will build heavy on this game because it's after the Memphis game. And if Ja Morant gets ruled out, I need all the exposure I can get to that game.
Do you put a lot of rules in? Because Michael's asking a question. If you happen to play Westbrook, like if Westbrook is in, do you restrict the total number of Lakers you play, or you don't do something like that?
I would have a group one of Westbrook and Schroeder. They certainly could both get there, but I think that it's unlikely enough that I do groups like that. I don't necessarily restrict like the other pieces of the team falling in the same lineup.
Thomas Bryant, you mentioned him a couple times before we even started talking about the Lakers. You like him, I guess. 24% ownership, 6.3K on DK. You have to assume if this game stays close, he's part of the reason. He can get a little bit of handsy, and he's going to be tasked with covering Jokic. So, a little bit of downside there, but certainly, good fantasy point minute player. How do you feel about Thomas?
Yeah, I love him. 50-point fantasy ceiling at 6K. That sounds very intriguing. I know it's not ideal with Jokic on the other side, but he's too cheap for the role he's going to have, unless like Westbrook goes for 40 points. Like Bryant's going to be incredibly involved. I really like the ceiling here, despite the matchup.
Jokic, we're looking at about 20% ownership, 11.7K. This feels like a game where Jokic is going to be able to do whatever he wants. If he wants the 15 assists, he can do that. If he wants to score 30 points, he can do that. I mean, I love this matchup for Jokic. Blowout be damned, whatever. But in my brain, I feel like I'm, again, different positions, sort of. I'm going to play him before I'm going to play Giannis as far as the big spends in the slate, or even Ja, I think, if Ja is available. Talk about Jokic and the rest of Denver. We do have MPJ, who's pretty cheap, so 5.9 on DK and like 5.5 on Fanduel. And then, of course, there's the fringe guys. Well, KCP, revenge game for him. He'll play 30 minutes or so against the Lakers. Murray's not getting much ownership at all, just noting that. About 3%. That's of note. Rest of Denver, just Denver in general. What do you got for me?
Yeah, Jokic is a guy I want to be at least at the field on, but I probably won't be able to get too far overweight. I want to be overweight on Giannis and Ja just because they're showing lower ownership. Jokic is a fantastic play. Don't get me wrong. Obviously love him, but maybe there's a scenario where he just doesn't get full fourth quarter run. And that harms him from finding that 80-point ceiling that you kind of need when he's priced up near 12K.
Richardson in, by the way. Josh Richardson, good to go.
All right. That probably leads me to take even more shots on some of that awful Lakers value that we talked about. I do love your Jamal Murray call, though. The ownership number is fantastic. If they're taking it easy on Jokic because it's the Lakers and they should beat them pretty handily either way, like no reason to push Jokic. Maybe Murray, who picks up a little bit more usage in that scenario. So particularly on DK at 6,800, I think he's very much in play at that price.
Who is your favorite Laker dart?
I will go Sterling Brown.
Yeah. And what's the floor on Sterling Brown? Like 5 points? They could be bad,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Yeah. But he's got a chance for 25 or 30 fantasy points as well. Does he mop up if this game gets out of hand?
I think
He's
so. Yeah.
right?
10-day contract. They're not tied to him. They can let him go at any point. So yeah, like I feel like he's the guy. If they're down by 30 points, he's the guy who's out there mopping up. Yep.
Final thoughts as far as Denver and the Lakers.
I do have a little interest in MPJ and Aaron Gordon as well, just because of their price. Like they're perfectly fine mid-range guys. I certainly wouldn't kick them out of the lineup, but not going to be guys that I'm like forcing into lineups or anything. But yeah, just make sure you're running back your Jokic exposure is what I would say, with either Westbrook, Bryant, or Schroeder.
Looks like we missed Jerry West as well. He's a number 44. We didn't talk about him. The old the logo.
His name popped into my mind, but I could not remember if that was actually his number for sure. But I thought that he was 44.
Did you watch that Showtime? No, was it called Showtime on HBO? The Lakers series recently, but with John C. Reilly. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I did not catch it.
Jerry West was not happy with how he was portrayed on that. Yeah, he was displeased with it, and yeah. I was gonna say we should change the logo. So let's update the logo. I mean, you had a good run, Jerry West, but why is the logo not LeBron? Okay. Here's a question in chat. Can you play Tatum and run it back with a couple Bulls, assuming that Jokic and the Lakers bringbacks will be chalky?
Yes, you certainly can. I mean, Tatum has one of the highest ceilings on the slate. There aren't a ton of guys who can compete with Giannis and Jokic in terms of ceiling, but Tatum is one of those guys. And I'm fine with the Bulls. I don't like the matchup for Vooch. DeRozan's a little bit overpriced, so Levine is certainly my preference there.
Crunch Time Crew coming out about 5, 6, 7 minutes, give or take. You got Andy Means. You guys are playing cash games tonight. Andy's going to kind of, sort of, somewhat just basically build you a cash lineup. If you're paying attention. He's not going to literally do it for you, but just pay attention. He'll help you out. And of course, Tim, Tasteful Tides, will also steer in the right direction as far as tournaments. Andy Means, and in about 7 minutes or so. By the way, just realized, how did you're ice. You didn't know? Did we not say Gervin, the Iceman? Did you not get that? You should know all things ice related.
I guess I should. Yeah, I mean that's a fair point.
I said George Gervin. I put the room out there.
No, but he's talking about me specifically because
I gotcha.
Also ice.
Yeah. I know every Dean in the history of the world, man. Just feel free to fire him at me. Herb Dean, referee for UFC, at least at one point. I think he's no longer. Maybe he still is. Not sure.
He's very active. He's on every card pretty much.
People hate him, right? Like, I feel like he either stops too early or never stops. What does he do?
I mean, there's just always going to be those complaints in MMA. He's not the best. He gets a lot of the high exposure fights. And there have often been questionable stoppages and non-stoppages. So that argument or debate or whatever you want to call it is valid.
Magic in Sacramento, 237.5 is the total. Magic 7-point dogs here. Bull, I believe he did pass the health protocols, but apparently he's not in Sacramento, so he will not be available. He's not playing basketball tonight. And Okiki's still out. Malik Monk is in for Sacramento, so we just
got some Grizzlies news here real quick. Steven Adams will play. John Morant, game time decision.
Okay.
Jake
are we interested in Adams? We didn't mention Adams. Like, he's interesting, I guess, but he's gotten bumped up as far as his price.
He has. He's also played really well recently, before the illness or whatever. I kind of assumed he was sitting, so I hadn't considered him. I talked about the strong center position. 7-2 on Fanduel, can only play one center. Don't think there's any chance I'm getting there. 6K on DraftKings, I think he's in play, but I probably won't have a ton of exposure.
Follow up, 20. You're making 20 teams. Is Tillman in your pool now?
Yes, I think he's a great pivot on other 3K chalk.
Yeah, he's a guy that can do it like in 17 minutes if he plays 17 minutes. And he's also a guy that, like, I think if this game gets out of hand, if you're betting on that, if you're not too heavy on the starters, he's a guy that can mop up a little bit as well. All right, Orlando and Sacramento, big boy total, obviously. Biggest number here as far as ownership is the very unsexy Harry Barnes, but he just one of those guys just kind of makes stuff work. He fulfills the small forward, power forward spot for you. De'Aaron Fox, pretty good, spend here. Good matchup here against Orlando. Sabonis, if he just can avoid foul trouble, that guy can just smash light. He does tend to foul out a little bit too often, but I think he's kind of one of the hidden stars on this slate, just 10% as far as ownership. What's popping for Sacramento and Orlando?
This game's tough. I think it's a good matchup for both teams, so I want more exposure than I currently have to it, I think. As I'm tweaking here before lock, like Barnes and Herter are fine. They're kind of similar to those Denver guys I mentioned, just mid-range pieces that if you happen to land in that price range, totally fine. I'm not sure I'm going to get overweight on Sabonis. Like 10-5 is a tough ask. It's another center. I think it's a fine matchup here against Orlando, but I probably don't get there on the slate. Fox is certainly fine. And I think I want a little bit of Orlando exposure just because the Kings play really fast. They don't play any defense. They've been a great matchup for fantasy production all season long. Can Orlando put up the fantasy points? I'm not sure, but it's a great spot for them to be able to do it.
But looking at the defense versus archetype matchup tool, like the best matchup in basketball, we talk about the Spurs. Combo guards, number one, Desmond Bain. So it's the worst defense and the best matchup. John Morant, also a combo guard. It's like just totally popping as far as the Memphis side. Mitch Rob, surprised. What other was worth pointing out, according to our defense versus archetype, if you call Mitch Rob a post big, which he most certainly is, he's a big that just kind of stays in the post. It's a really good matchup for Milwaukee, which is somewhat surprising, and a good matchup for McDermott for shooting wings. If you want to take a shot on that, are you going to consider stacking this game by chance? Because you can get outside of Sabonis and Banchero, the pieces are pretty cheap. Is that something you're considering, or you're kind of hoping this game just kind of happens and it's mostly uneventful?
So Banchero is the one I want exposure to. I think he could put up a big number here, a ceiling type game against this Sacramento team. I probably don't get to Sabonis because I'd rather spend the money in other spots. I'll have a little Fox. I think Barnes and Herter, just kind of pieces that fit and could help push this game a little bit. Herter has a big night shooting or something like that. Could just elevate Banchero on the other side. So it's not going to be like any more than two players, I don't think, but I do want to play some Banchero. I'll probably run it back with Fox, Barnes, and Herter a little bit.
Kind of that like button if you guys are hanging out in chat. Do subscribe, turn on those notifications. If you do not hit the like button, Rob is considering having Roth do a 10-minute monologue on the life cycle of cumulonimbus clouds. So I kind of want to hear Roth do that. I don't know about 10 minutes of it. I want to hear the old filibuster of him talking about that's got to be in his bag. He probably could do that if he had to, if he was pressed on the spot. I would assume that's something he can do, or at least when he was 20.
Certainly think so. Yes.
In college, he could have done it. Maybe we could ask him. Coming on in a few minutes, we got Roth hosting the Crunch Time Show, sponsored by Fanduel. We got Andy as well and Tasteful Tides. Tim, I don't have a lot to say about this game. I'm just it's sort of happening, and I think it's just mostly filler stuff. Certainly you can play Fox, you can play Sabonis. Harry Barnes is like rarely gets there, but he's one of those guys that, like, if you're making a lineup, I know you're hand building it, right? Theoretically, that's what you land on as the last man in to make everything else work. I don't think I blow it up, right? I'm going to play it. I'm not enthused. Like if I have 5'6", and that's what I need is a small forward, I'm playing Barnes, and that's that. But I don't really have a lot more as far as Orlando. Bamba did not play last game, by the way. I think it was a DMP CD, just of note. Not that we're playing Bamba tonight, but I thought that was interesting. Anything else we should say here as far as Sacramento and Orlando?
No, I mean, I'm kind of on the same page with you in that I don't have a ton of interest, but there's a pretty high total here. I feel like maybe it's going overlooked for sure.
Yes.
And I might be trying to get a little bit more exposure here. And I think maybe it's as simple as just Banchero and Barnes or Fox or somebody like that. Like, I don't know. There's going to be some points put up in this game for sure.
Sacramento plays fast. They play poor defense. Orlando not so fast, but they play poor defense. Sacramento and Orlando are both in the bottom, 8. So, maybe we shouldn't be neglecting this one. And I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with this game. But if nothing else, like, you can pivot to it. If you're just backloading stuff, there's certainly some pivot options there. If you need to adjust for whatever reason, if you're well ahead, if you're well behind, you're trying to play some catch up as far as your pieces in the first games. We should have, if I'm getting the clues here from our watching the video, I see producer Rob shuffling all the squares around. Does that mean we're going to get Roth and Andy popping up in a second?
We're going to bring the Crunch Time crew in. And as we're bringing them in, let's conclude our game of the night.
Yeah.
And I need you guys to tell me, in honor, we're doing this number in honor of Friday the 13th being this week. I want you to tell me the best player in all of sports, to ever wear the number 13. And this one is going to cause the chat to fight endlessly, I believe. So I think it's the perfect number to end on.
Like,
can
Marino's
cheaters be considered? Yeah, Marino's there. A-Rod is certainly there. Let's see. There's got to be.
Well, why he's framing it in a way it's like gonna start a fight. It's like a really divisive.
I mean,
person.
there's a lot of answers. I feel like so.
A-Rod, I think A-Rod is really controversial.
Yeah, that's fair. Did we say who the greatest number 53 was? Because I have a nomination.
I can tell you based on the list if you want.
Is
also
one
Crunch
Andy
Time
Means on that list?
Andy Means is not on the list.
What list?
This is the list of the greatest players to wear a sports number in history. All sports.
Which number?
Well, we're doing 13 right now, but Dean
I
wants
did
to
wear
know.
13, baby. I wore it myself.
Hey, wasn't Steve Nash? Was Steve Nash?
Ooh,
I think so.
Number
Yeah,
53, you guys are not going to get. I'm telling you right now.
Will Chamberlain apparently in the chat is wore number 13. He didn't wear number 5,000 or 10,000 in honor of no, he wore number 13.
If he wore 13, then it's over. Yeah, then the conversation ends there.
So the answer is Will Chamberlain, but notables are Dan Marino, Alex Rodriguez, and Pavel Datsyuk in the NHL.
Pavel
Datsyuk.
Datsyuk?
I mean, we see that my NHL prowess knows no bounds, clearly. All right, so do you want the number 53? Does anyone want to guess before we do it, since we threw the number out there, since Dean's going rogue?
There's got to be a linebacker that was 53.
Yeah. Harry Carson.
Harry Carson is the notable name.
There it is. What?
Others may know.
Wow.
Harry Carson
Artie
is
Gilmore,
the notable
according to
name.
chat.
Nope, chat did get it though. Don Drysdale was the answer for number 53. So
Pitcher for
sorry,
the
I have no idea who that is.
Was Andy and others
Right.
receiving votes at least?
I mean, again, this is according to Bleacher Report. Send all of your hate mail to Bleacher Report. Send it all to Dean's Atari, since that went crazy at the beginning of the
I would
show.
be like 900, the 99999, like on Dean's list. That's where I would be. That's the most important 53s.
Nice.
See, I wore number 3 in high school, so like I'm probably in the tens of thousands down on that number.
Yeah, I wore number 3 as well, and you're below me. So
That's true. That's true. Are you ready for your monologue, by the way?
yeah, so the life cycle of a thunderstorm, you see what happens, Dean.
Let me get my pen and paper.
Yeah.
Keith, you got anything else for the boys? The people want some basketball talk at a half hour. Obviously, 6 gamer, plenty of time to knock it out. But Keith, anything else before we step aside and make way for the Fanduel sponsored Crunch Time?
I do not. Good luck, everybody.
All right. On behalf of producer Rob, well, producer Rob's going nowhere, but myself and Keith, we're stepping aside. We're going to make way for Fanduel sponsored Crunch Time, starring you got Tim, TastefulTides, you got Andy Means, you got Kevin Roth. Roth, take it away.
What's happening? Welcome to it. It is indeed crunch time, and yes, it is sponsored by FanDuel. And you better believe we're joined by 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz. One, the GOAT, the greatest number 53 to ever 53. It is Mr. Andy Means. What up, Means?
Happy Monday.
You're way better than whatever 53 dude they sent out there. I literally
Don Drysdale?
Who the hell is Don? I couldn't tell you what sport he played.
I mean, I don't know my old sports like I used to, but I'm pretty sure he's a good pitcher, right? Back in the day? Tides?
I
think so.
Bullshit.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure.
I don't know. New to me. Anyways, welcome, bud.
Yeah, I'm it's been a long day. A lot of stuff going on. It was weird because like I pull up the slate at whatever time and there's only 6 games, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday when I'm on with you guys it's usually like 11 or 12. So I was kind of excited to see just 6 games. So maybe we could just shoot the shit a little bit.
I got no issues with that. Joining us in the shit shooting is Tim, aka TastefulTides. What up, Tim?
What's going on, guys? Yeah, this is actually going to be a really, really fun 6-game slate. Like sometimes short slates can be kind of stale, but I think this one has a lot of interesting angles that you can take. So I'm pretty excited to break it down with you guys.
Very good. I feel like 6 to 8 can kind of be that magic in between number where it's like not too much, where you're just like,
Right.
too many good plays, but not like the 2 or 3 game where you're like, oh my God, I'm jamming in the worst freaking plays ever. So hopefully we can get some good stuff out there to the people. Means you want to kind of give us a rundown? No, he does not. Nah, not really. Hey, we got the Natty tonight. I assume you boys are watching, right?
Yeah, watch that.
Like, I guess I'll. I don't.
I mean, we have to after the semifinal games, right? Kind of have to.
That's true. Yeah, those are phenomenal. Yeah, I don't know.
Which means tonight's game's going to suck.
I kind of feel I gotta hope TCU doesn't just get rolled. Shout out to the Hypnotoad. If you're not rooting for TCU, then you probably live in Georgia. I feel like that's.
I'm not rooting for TCU just so I don't have to walk around doing this. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like that, yeah, that's really dumb.
It's pretty bad. All right, means let's kind of discuss this slate here. We've got 26, 27 minutes, plenty of time to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only real situation we're waiting on now is Ja. So he was out yesterday for thigh soreness, I believe. I thought it was just going to be back-to-back related. And Adams was out yesterday for illness. They already ruled Adams in. Bane's not on the injury report at all. This will be his first back-to-back set since he came back from injury, and he's sat out twice already in similar situations. So maybe Ja's a little more questionable than we thought, or maybe they're just doing the competitive advantage, whatever that is, waiting as long as possible. This game's an hour after lock, so it's relevant, very relevant. Like, if Ja's out, Bane and Tyus Jones probably become the two best plays on the slate. Bane's already a really good play, so it's relevant. And LeBron got rolled out earlier, and a bunch of Keldon got rolled out earlier, and a bunch of names that have been out for a decent chunk of time. So it's really, as far as like zooming out purposes, it's really just the Ja situation.
Okay, very good. Well, then why don't we zoom in? We'll talk some FanDuel cash. And by the way, before we do that, we should know. Sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. Take advantage of their pretty good bonus offer here. New customers bet $5 on any market, get $150 in free bets, unless you're in Ohio, in which case you get $200 in free bets. So make sure you're doing that. Signing up, FanDuel Sportsbook, best spot to be other than right here with us on Crunch Time. Means.
All right, point guard on FanDuel. I have Trey Jones tagged. He no Keldon, no Vassell. Those are their two highest usage rate guys on San Antonio. So they're decent underdogs here, but he's usually right around like 30, 31 minutes anyway. So I think he should, generally speaking, be fine for his normal minutes, unless they just get absolutely slaughtered, which is possible. But he does a little bit of everything. I like his price tag. So he's probably one of the first guys in. Right there with him is Dennis Schroeder, 5'8", no LeBron, no AD, no Reeves, no Troy Brown, no Lonnie Walker. They're without a ton of players. So you can make the argument that he's a better play than Trey. I think you probably just play both of them personally. Those are the cheap options. Then when we move up, we have also Malcolm Brogdon. Forgot about him. He was more of a primary play earlier until more pieces started moving around, but he's still pretty damn good play with no Marcus Smart. So then moving up, you have Jalen Brunson at 8K, Russell Westbrook at 8.5, and CJ McCollum at 8.7. I prefer Brunson of the group. If you look at these, I've been seriously talking about this dude basically since he came back and RJ was out, and he just plays 38 to 40 minutes every night, gets you like 40 to 50 every night.
How good is he? How good is he, Andy Means?
I was hoping we could get through without Ross saying something.
Sorry.
But, well deserved for the Brunson burner. I prefer him over Russ, especially when you factor in the $500 discount. A little different over on DK, where Russ is a lot cheaper and the scoring system is really good for us, where I think you probably prioritize Russ. But those three are the guys you're probably spending up on. And then obviously, like I mentioned, if Ja's out, then you're going Tyus Jones. He probably usurps everybody. So that's point guard. A lot of good options there. So when I'm going through all this other stuff, know that those are some of the better plays in the slate. Shooting guard.
Did you drop a usurps all of them? Did you just casually throw that in?
Yeah.
That's just fantastic, man. I'm proud of you. That's wonderful. All right, continue.
Now I lost my train of thought. All right. Brunson has shooting guard eligibility. Schroeder has shooting guard eligibility. McCollum has shooting guard eligibility. And then one of my favorite plays in the slate, Bane. So Now you have to keep in mind the context here. Like he's obviously probably not going to play at the normal minutes like he was before he got hurt. But before he got hurt, like literally, look, the last game he played before he got that toe injury, he was $8,100 on both sides. He's $6,700 on FanDuel, and he has one of the best matchups in the league. Again, you're losing out in a few minutes, but this guy is not a $6,700 player, and there's only room up on the projection because John might still not play. So I think he's just a really, really, really solid cash game option. Trying to think if there's anyone else here that I didn't already mention. Like Richardson's here. He's okay. Better play on DK or I tag them. That's it. And I'll try to speed it up here because I don't like these other positions as much. You have Bane here at small forward, so you can use him there. Michael Porter I really like. At 5'5", you have Harrison Barnes right there as well. I'd much rather play Porter personally. You have working your way up. You have Kuzma at 7,500. No Bradley Beal still. You have DeMar DeRozan at 8,700. Just a handful of names that are viable but not primary plays besides Bane for me. Power forward, a lot of the same stuff as far as not priorities, but is what I mean when I say that. Mm-hmm. You have up top, you have Julius Randle at 10-1. And then you have Kuzma again. You have the Harrison Barnes, Michael Porter thing again. And then you have these cheap guys that are benefiting from injuries on their team. So, like for the Spurs, you have Keita Bates-Diop. He's 3'9". Then you have Wenyen Gabriel. He's 3'8". Those guys are fine as just like last pieces to kind of bring everything together. Not guys I'm thrilled to play by any stretch. I'll mention Wendell Carter. He's like a good last piece as well. He's 6'3". So let's move to center real quick. Jokic is a really good play the way this slate is shaping up in the sense that you have the money to spend up for him if you need it. Like we talked about a bunch of cheap guys in like that 5 to 6K range. That makes Jokic pretty easily. And then Jakob Poeltl would be my preference if I'm spending down. I think he's 6'4", but there's like some other guys here in this general range that are basically equally as good. You have Thomas Bryant at 6'8", and you have Mitchell Robinson at 6'2". I'd probably put Mitchell Robinson a notch below these other ones. I think there is just excessive foul trouble risk with going up. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to guard Giannis, but he's going to be around Giannis a lot, and that's just foul trouble waiting to happen. And also, like what he does well is like what Milwaukee stops him from doing well, or players like him from doing well. So I'd put him down underneath these other two I'm talking about. And then the last one I'll mention is Daniel Gafford. He's a little cheaper there too at 5'6".
Very good. Jakob Poeltl's going to smash, right? Like that price. And I don't know. I feel like
he's even cheaper on DK.
Yeah,
I think he's going to struggle against Adams.
Yeah,
I was really hoping Adams would be out, and then I think Poeltl would absolutely crush. But yeah, he could still crush. But I really wanted Adams to be out for him.
Yeah.
So
I guess I didn't even consider matchup. I just thought at that price with his minutes coming back up, working their way back up, that he was just going to do what he does.
I mean, projections agree with you. Okay. So it's you're definitely not wrong for thinking that. It's just, for me, it's kind of an ownership thing. And also it's kind of a Steven Adams thing. Poeltl relies so much on kind of like offensive rebound putbacks, which I just don't think he's going to get against Adams. But I could be very, very wrong about that.
It's a good take and a good thought either way. Let's talk some tournaments here, if you don't mind. We'll stick to FanDuel for now, and you can give me your overall thoughts. You can walk us position by position, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so I'll start with the point guard position because that seems to be kind of like the overhanging kind of issue with what do we do with Ja Morant and Tyus Jones and that whole Memphis situation. And I think the masses are, for the most part, are going to be waiting on that news. So they're going to let lock go by and hope that they get, whatever news that they're going to get from Memphis. So that, to me, thinks that the contrarian move is to actually front load your team with some of these point guards that are going to go unowned because people don't want to take up their roster spots with, without the Memphis news. So a guy like CJ McCollum, I think, is a fantastic play. He is going to come up with some ownership, so he's not super, super contrarian, but I think that he's going to be lower than 25%. We have him at 25% right now. I think he's going to come in lower than that. So I think he's just a spectacular play for GPPs. Same thing with this Chicago-Boston game. Like Derek White, Jaylen Brown's a shooting guard, not a point guard, but still. Like this game, Zach LaVine, this game is going to go super, super under-owned. So I think that, usually we want to backload, but I think tonight for large field stuff, it's okay to get exposure to some of these early games and embrace the unknown of Memphis. I wouldn't necessarily maybe go all in with that thought, but I think it's good to at least hedge a little bit and say that Ja is going to play and that we're not going to get that spectacular value in Jones.
Okay.
I want to come in underweight on Desmond Bane at 41%, just because I just think that's a lot of ownership. And if Ja plays, I mean, it's gonna be kind of ugly. Like I think that this game is gonna get way out of hand, and Bane is gonna be not gonna get his full run of minutes, and he might not be the reason that this game blows out. So at that ownership right now, I kind of want to be under that.
God, I love hearing your takes because I just think these guys are can't miss dudes like a Bane or a Pirtle. But then I hear your take on why, and you're like, yes, it's a great play, but tournament wise at 40+% ownership, you can literally
let's get me and Tim. Let's have Rob get me and Tim sitting on your shoulders.
That's what I've got right now. And I don't know what to do. Of course, I'm going chalky like a donkey, but
it's not really a donkey. It's just, man, it's just so much ownership for like one guy.
Yeah, that's game theory.
Yeah, it's just tough because it's obviously an amazing spot. But I mean, I personally think Ja Morant is a spectacular tournament play today. Like if he goes, you get away from like your Russell Westbrook type teams, your Jokic teams, you pivot to Ja. He crushes, he runs away with the Spurs. He puts up 70 DK points in 3.5 quarters, and he's the best play on the slate. Like that's kind of where I'm thinking. But it's tough. Like, it's a tough spot because Spurs are the worst defensive team in basketball, and they're gonna get rolled tonight. And also, I'm having a tough time deciding what I want to do with Josh Richardson because he has a huge ceiling and he can put up monster fantasy games, but he's going to be the first one gone in a blowout scenario too. He's a bigger decision point, definitely on DraftKings. I'm sure Ameansy will mention him for DK Cash, but on FanDuel, he's not as much of a priority because he's 5K. So I just want to run over to center real quick.
Yeah.
Like I'm off of Pirtle. I think that I think the biggest issue for foul trouble is going to be Thomas Bryant against Jokic. So I'm off of Pirtle. I'm off of Thomas Bryant. I like Mitrov. I like Gafford, and I also like Jokic. Jokic is in both of my single entry teams right now on both DK and FanDuel. I think ownership on center is going to be super, super spread out on FanDuel today. And I want to get the biggest ceiling possible out of that position. So I'm going to elect to pay all the way up on FanDuel.
Good stuff, man. I love it. All right. Means let's kick it over to DK. We still got a decent amount of time here. So let me know what the game plan is. I need help at forward, but do what you do.
Noted. Everyone does.
Yeah.
It's such a weak position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not playing, as Dean called him the very unsexy Harrison Barnes, which I loved. I'm not playing that freaking guy. So give me something better than that.
Yeah, I've actually set up my mic so it automatically mutes myself when I say Harrison Barnes, just to you, but not to everyone else.
That's good.
So it's interesting how I got that worked out.
Yeah.
So first I want to echo, I thought that was really, really well broken down by Tim. So I just wanted to echo that because that was good stuff. Moving over to DK. So guard, I'll just do guard and together, point guard and shooting guard. So Josh Richardson is point guard, shooting guard now, and he's only 4K, and we did get confirmation he's playing. So I do like him as one of the best salary league plays on the slate. I have him tagged. I had Schroeder tagged at 5'7", and he's probably the next guy in for me. and then I have Russ tagged, and he's point guard. So like those are, and the thing is like Russ and Schroeder are only point guard eligible, so that messes things up a little bit. You can obviously put one of them in the guard spot, put Richardson in the shooting guard spot, and then those are like the three main guys I'd be looking at. The fourth one would probably be Brunson at 8-1. Like those are the first four guys I'd be looking at for those positions. And then last piece sort of things, Malcolm Brogdon at 5'3", briefly talked about him over on FanDuel. Probably not spending. I'm sorry, I didn't even mention Bane. I just completely glossed over him. I forgot he's just shooting guard eligible. He's obviously right there in the mix. So it'd probably be because of his shooting guard eligibility. I mean, I guess it washed away by Richardson having both. So I'll go Richardson, Schroeder, Bane, Westbrook. Like those are the top four. Then Brunson. Like you have these, and again, these are like really top of the line plays on the slate in general, all positions. So like those are the five. I think I listed 5 there, and then Brogdon would be 6 as the guys I'm looking at. Now let's stop talking about the good ones and go to the crappy ones, go to small forward. So I think you want to get out of here as cheap as possible. I've said that before, but when there's just not anything really good, just don't play like Jaylen Brown. It's like, oh, Jaylen Brown's the second best RG value at small forward. Like when you compare him to how all of those expensive guards, he's not that good of a play. So you're sacrificing a lot by going with him as an example. So I want to go cheap. I want to go Grant Williams. I want to go Doug McDermott. Those guys are like mid to low 3s. I want to go Najee Marshall at 5'5", and I want to go at 5'6". That was me muting myself. That was Harrison Barnes, but Rob didn't notice it.
That was really good. Good job.
Yeah, that's really it. I don't think we need to talk about anybody else at that position. And a lot of these guys are the ones that we'll talk about at power forward too, because it's not that great of a position here either. You do have Julius Randle if you want to spend up. I don't necessarily like doing that on this slate. I'd rather find a way to play Jokic for not that much more. So again, we're going to be talking about similar guys, and there's a couple others that get added into the equation. So I mentioned Grant Williams, I mentioned Najee Marshall. Then you have KBD, Keita Bates-Diop, and Wenyen Gabriel. So like you can just plug one of those dudes in, and then that'll allow you to get to Jokic. That'll allow you to pay up for like Westbrook and Brunson or something like that. So that's what I would be doing at power forward, and then center. Now center is where there's some good plays here. So you have obviously Jokic, and then you have these mid-tier guys that I just talked about on FanDuel. And I like Gafford a lot more here on DK because he's only 4'7", and the dude's I think I wrote on my article days that like 28 to 31 DraftKings points in 5 straight games. Like, okay, I'm going to get 30 at 4'7", sign me up. Not saying that's absolutely going to happen, but it's obviously likely it's going to happen. So you have him, you have Jokic, then you have these 5K guys, Mitrov, Pirtle, Thomas Bryant at 6'3". Like those guys are all, what did I list? 5 or 6 guys there. All those guys are cash viable. So that's it for me.
Okay. I hate my team. I hate my lineup. All right.
It's all the forwards, man. If like Josh Richardson had small forward like he did on other slates, then we'd be thinking we like him better.
Yeah.
All right. Tim. Also, I just want to echo something Andy said real quick about power forward. Giannis, because I don't think Randall's a good spend up, and he's going to be actually kind of high owned on DK. Like he's going to be 20%. Andy said find the money for Jokic. Well, you could find the money for Giannis at sub 10% for large field tournaments. Like talk about a guy at the Garden coming off a horrible game last game at sub 10%. I think that's an amazing play. So instead of screw all these cheap, horrible power forward players that have like nothing that could really just be all duds, go all the way up to Giannis.
That's exactly where I'm at positionally. Like I've got someone in the util I like, I've got someone in the center I like, but I don't have someone in the forward. So that's going to be my spend up. And I think that's
I would do that then, because he's going to be really, really low owned.
Yeah. That's
I was playing around with builds, trying to do that on FanDuel too. It's a little harder to do, but it's like some of these forwards are so bad. So, I mean, they're all right for cash games, but in terms of ceilings for GPPs, it's a barren wasteland. So, I would just say go all the way up in tournaments.
Okay. Anything you want to add here on DK that's a little different? We still have 8 minutes.
Well, Josh Richardson is the hard kind of chalk decision. I think that is chalk I'm going to eat because he does have enough fantasy point per minute upside. Like he could put up like a really decent like 9x performance. So I'm just gonna eat that chalk. Westbrook he's a play that I want to get off of later in the night, but I can now completely understand if you want to go there. See, I'm so high on Jokic that I feel like I need at least a couple Lakers, and so I kind of wanted to do like Schroeder and maybe Brian on DK, or Schroeder Westbrook, or even Schroeder and Gabriel or something like that. I'm not quite decided, but I Westbrook is showing up in 60% of our optimals, and he's only going to be like 40% owned. So that's actually like really, really good positive leverage.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for tournaments, he's a really, really strong play.
Okay, very good. Guys, we still have 7 minutes for some QQs here. Let's get to it. And I'm going to pull up the RG Discord. If you're not hanging out in the RG Discord, you should be. This is where all the cool kids are. I'm going to scroll up a wee bit here. Oh, any Kristaps love from Gamble? I'm calling this a tournament question. So, Tim, any Zinger love? Who's going to guard him on New Orleans? No one.
That's a good point. I don't mind getting pieces of that game. I think that game is going to go super, super low owned. So I think that's fine.
All right. Yahoo GPP right back at you here. Is 3 Lakers too many if I'm only playing Jokic?
It's tough. I think you can get away with it.
Okay, very good. Fanduel Cash means the Sochan, MPJ, and Jokic, or Marshall, Barnes, and Saboner?
First one easily.
Very good. Any interest in Tillman in Fanduel Cash means last piece without Clark?
No.
It's just a funny random question. I'll do what I can on that. But Freya says, DK Cash, are we looking at double center tonight? And if so, which guard are we sacrificing? And I think no, the answer is the guard plays are too strong. It's either obviously guard, double center.
It's close. Yeah, I mean, it's usually one of those things where I like to see what we're dealing with, like between the 2v2, 3v3s. But I think it's one of those. Like, I mean, that's somewhat of a cop out of an answer, but I think you're either playing a guard or a center at UTEL. So I guess that's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah. All right. FanDuel GPP for Mike. I really like Tatum and Sabonis as my stud plays. Low owned, bad defenses. You cool with that?
I really like Sabonis. I think I'm not as crazy about Tatum, but I mean, he is an amazing player. So if you want to play him, I really can't say no, but I do like Sabonis quite a bit tonight.
Okay, very good. Question from KevinRothWx that says, if you happen to have 4,900 left in the forward spot in a GPP DK, Tim, where would you go? It was just in the chat. I don't know who typed that, but it was right there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's ugly.
It is really ugly.
It's really ugly.
Herb?
Maybe. Yeah, Horford. Keegan.
Horford.
Yeah.
Horford?
Or Keegan Murray.
All right. We'll Horford it up. That'll work. Okay. Can I play Zach Collins at center in a FanDuel GPP, Tim? Yeah,
No.
Tim.
No.
Too many.
I don't like to say no often to people, but I think that's a really bad idea.
Just too many other good plays there.
Yeah.
FanDuel Cash means 2v2 Brogdon Saboner v. Quickly Randall.
I do like Randall a little more than Saboner, but I'm going to go with I'm going to go Randall one.
Very good. FanDuel single entry. Can you play 2 studs on a FanDuel single entry, Tim, like a Ja and a Giannis?
Yes, you can. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah, very
and
good.
I think you can do it.
Jumping over to the YouTube. Any Wendell Carter love from Mark Sanchez? Wait, Mark Sanchez? Any Wendell Carter
Yeah, I
love?
think that game is really, really interesting for tournaments. I think that's a really good, getaway, like maybe later in the night if you're behind a little bit in your GPPs to switch over to that game if you want, because that's a really, really strong DFS environment.
Very good. DK Cash means KBD. Oh, that's Bates, Jop, or Gabriel.
Ugh. Probably Gabriel, but like that alone is why forward sucks tonight. That question is exactly why.
Yeah. All right. Right back at you means MPJ is the last piece in DK Cash.
Oh yeah, I like him tonight.
Bunky B says, "Are you worried about Bryant foul trouble?" And Tim, you mentioned, yes, indeed, you are.
I am. Yeah. Yep. I really am. He could get absolutely just torched by Jokic, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for. So
Okay.
I am worried about it. I understand his good projection. I'm fine if you play him, but I think he's going to get crashed.
Okay. A certain King Coakley says, "Am I dumb for playing Tatum Jokic in FanDuel tournaments? Because I'm doing it, baby."
All right, do it. I don't like
bring
Tatum,
back. Are we stupid?
I don't like Tatum, but
yeah. Bring back the "Am I stupid?" question. Is it "Am I stupid for?"
Yes.
And then
please.
fill in. Those are fun ones. Let's see. Steve O says, "I'm doing a little dumpster diving in GPPs." Tim, what are your thoughts on? Oh, buddy, blowout run for Nunn and Branham.
I prefer none. I think it's smart if you're making multiple lineups to have some of these bottom of the barrel Laker guys for sure. So I don't really hate that at all.
All right, NBA DFS says, assuming Josh sits, Porter, Barnes (parentheses, sorry Roth) or Brooks.
I would go Brooks if Ja's out. If that's cash.
I didn't specify, but okay, good to know. Beaner says, "What are your thoughts on Fultz, Tim?"
Not on my radar.
No. Did he learn to shoot again? We've caught up on the questions. Did he learn to? Is he still like doing the hitching the shot or no? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
All I can tell you is he hasn't learned to shoot.
Okay. Man, that was wild.
I have two post lock things to add since we just locked.
Yeah, let's hear
it. The first one is Tim kind of glossed over it. I mean, not on purpose, but like we're always talking about this stuff and we always think about this stuff. But for people who don't, like he made a really good point about like if you're behind when you get to these late games, like if you look at Lakers and Denver, I see this is DK. I see 43%, 23%, 22%, 19, 17, 17. That's Denver and Lakers projected ownership. And then I go to Orlando, Sacramento. I see 17 is the highest, and I see 14, 12, 10. Like it's just you need to be thinking of like I'm not like if you have shitty performances from some of your guys at the start, you need to not be playing Russell Westbrook. Just stuff like that people might not make the extra effort to do that can like give you some big spots on the leaderboard. So that was the first thing.
In any sport, don't give up on your team. Too many people give up on their teams, and it kind of like frustrates me. I mean, I'm happy with it when they're in my contests, but you shouldn't give up.
It is just an effort thing and paying attention to the news thing. It's the same reason why if we get somebody the Ja Morant news, for instance, like not everyone is going to react to that. And
listen, the fact that lock just happened. If Ja Morant is out like 2 minutes from now, Tyus Jones is going to be not nearly as high owned as he would have been if Ja Morant was rolled out 30 minutes ago. And that is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fact.
We got things to do. I'm drinking beer and making a fire tonight.
Exactly.
You think I'm going to
be... Yeah, I know. The other thing I was going to mention is I'm surprised after Giannis's game, what was that, Friday night? He had 12 fantasy points. I'm surprised I didn't see a bunch of quote tweets come up on my Twitter timeline from Roth. Quote tweeting himself from like 4 years ago when he was saying what a bum Giannis is going to be in the NBA. I'm like, see, I told you, this dude sucks.
That's a stretch. I didn't go that far. And to be clear, it was a bad take. I was wrong about my take. I'm off the take. The take was you can't win a championship if your star can't shoot, and he proved me wrong.
And then what did he do in Game 6 of the finals? Precisely, what did he do?
Did he shoot? He fucking dominated. I know that.
He had 50 points in an NBA Finals closeout game. That's what he did.
He's so the effort that he puts in on both ends of the court is so ridiculous.
Is a skill.
He's won me over.
It's a skill.
Yeah, he's won me over. I will never talk shit about him again. I was wrong.
Rob, can we clip that?
I was wrong. You can win if you have no skill. You can win.
Oh my God, who we finally got?
I just had to like that to piss me off.
I think that is in the production budget for now.
Yeah.
The other thing you wanted, I am not doing. That will blow the yearly budget out of the water.
The angel devil thing. He was like, we can't afford that. That's
too crazy.
Yeah. Hey guys, excellent work here. We are gonna bounce on out of here. So for Andy Means, for Tim, for our wonderful production crew, in this case Rob, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been enjoy the match.